without further ado, the man that won against the federal government, the one and only Sheriff Mack.
Now you know that was against the Clinton administration, right?
Right.
I sued the Clintons and lived to tell about it. All right. There's so much to go over, and there's just too much, because mostly of the pandemic. But it's not a pandemic of the coronavirus. It's a pandemic of corruption, and it's all across the country. And perhaps the sickest place is Washington, D.C. In fact, I've always, I've read the Bible a little bit. I kind of thought it was a pretty cool book. And the part where God struck down Sodom and Gomorrah, he sure owes Sodom and Gomorrah an apology if he doesn't do that to Washington, D.C. It is so corrupt. Oh my gosh. And poor Trump, he had no idea what he was talking about when he said he was going to drain that place. Oh my gosh, he's not going to drain that swamp. The swamp has really got him on the run, and has for some time. So shows that we need to focus our attention locally. You want to take back America? Do it county by county, sheriff by sheriff, and state by state. But I'm hesitant to say that regarding California, because I just don't think it's going to be. I don't think it's going to happen here. You want freedom and to still live here? Well, that's going to be pretty difficult. But there are some good sheriffs here, especially up in the northern part. Sheriff Mims in Fresno isn't too bad. Sheriff Lope isn't too bad. Several others. Bianco really surprised me in Riverside. Fantastic, great. I hope a lot more sheriffs surprise the heck out of me as we keep going through this. Because the bottom line on any of this, there's not a single person in government at any level that has any authority to shut you down, to quarantine you, to take away your freedom, to take away your Constitution, to suspend your constitutional rights temporarily, and when we get over this crisis, we'll give them back to you. Bull-loney. They don't have it. And it looks like we're just going along and we're convincing them that they do, because we've gone along with it. These sheriffs that have been standing, yay, way to go. But our job at the CSPOA, Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, is that we want to create about another 500 to 700 constitutional sheriffs. And when do we want to do that? Well, yesterday would have been nice. But if we don't, I don't believe that this can remain peaceful. And the solution that we're offering is peaceful and effective. And imagine that you want to not get vaccinated. Maybe I will take the vaccination. You know that? I might not. But want me to tell you the bottom line? It's up to me. It's not up to my government to choose that for me. It's not up to my government to tell me or force me to wear a seatbelt. It's not up to the government to tell me to wear a mask. Are you kidding? Are we totally insane? We're going along with that? Oh my gosh. So, Michelle was just reminding me, and my book, The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. That's not it. That's the other one. Look at that guy, though, huh? Yeah. We were all good looking when we were young, huh? No, this one. The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. You all need to read that. Sage, you too. Okay. It's only 50 pages. But on the first page, it asks a question. And it quotes Jefferson first. And Jefferson said, when all government shall be drawn to Washington as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided, in other words, the Constitution, and become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated. In other words, we got King George III and the Parliament of England all over again. And lo and behold, I think it's worse. except they're not quartering troops in our homes. Other than that, they're violating every single one of them.
That's not a guarantee.
You're right. It's not. And the Constitution doesn't protect you from anything. It is a promise and it is a contract that must be enforced by those who swore an oath to uphold and defend it. Liberty is the sole possession of those with the courage to keep it. And I pray that our sheriffs will have the courage to keep their oaths of office, because it just boils down to that. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a background, because many of you don't know me. You don't know what brought this small town sheriff from Safford, Arizona, Graham County. You don't have any clue what brought me to sue the federal government. Well, I was just walking along one day and an apple fell on my head and I thought, I'm going to sue the feds today. Clinton, who cares? I'll sue him. So it all started with me starting in law enforcement in 1979. And then I worked a 1-year undercover assignment in narcotics. I was totally undercover. As soon as you can, Sage, I want you to Google Sheriff Mack undercover photo. Okay? You don't have a phone? Good. Your parents are smart. She doesn't have a phone. Good. Anybody wants to do that, go ahead. But I just wanted to be in law enforcement. I just wanted to be a good police officer. And I found out one day I had no clue what that meant. Because why do most people want to get in law enforcement? Because they watch movies and television shows about all these cops and it's so exciting. And sometimes, and you know what? One thing they make look really exciting? Stakeouts. Those are the most boring, tedious, horrible thing to try to stay awake in and to try to go to the bathroom. We won't talk about that anymore. And it really is. And a lot of law enforcement's boring. And thank goodness. Good, we don't have anything to do right now. Great. I love it when it's boring. That means no crime and people are getting along and nobody's getting hurt and nobody's getting a DUI accident or anything like that. Thank goodness there's some boring times. But that's why they want to get in there. And none of us know what the job's really about. And so after my undercover assignment, my view of the drug war completely changed, and I started studying why we arrest all these potheads and anybody else doing drugs. And now I think it's the biggest farce since the IRS. And it's really created a police state and a lot of abuses that go on today. And yes, I think most of our police officers and peace officers, I wish they were peace officers, I think they're mostly good people. There's not systemic racism within law enforcement or in our country. It's just absolutely not true. And so we could go into that, but that's not our speech today either. But I don't like to be lied to, and that's a lie. And there's just too much going on that we could not get into that. So I'm gonna keep it to this. So one day I'm writing a lady a traffic ticket, and I could tell when she ran through the stop sign that she didn't mean to do it. She had 5 or 6 kids in her car, and they were like totally acting like the Tasmanian devil. And they were just all over in the car going crazy. And so she tried to settle her kids down. She lost track of where she was on the road, and she ran a stop sign right in front of me in my police car. And then all of a sudden she noticed where she was. She looked over at me. I'm the only living person within 150 yards of that intersection. And like she didn't see me before. It's a bright blue police car. And so she looks at me and she goes, as if to say, what else could go wrong today? And she immediately pulls over. She doesn't even wait for me to turn my lights on. She just pulls over. And so I turn on my lights though, because I am going to take action against her, and that's warning for everybody not to run over me. And so I get up to the car, and she has her license and registration already out the window. And this lady was obviously having a horrible day. And she just stared right through the windshield, and she never said a word. And I thought, okay, here's my ticket book. And it was about this size, half the size of a regular piece of typing paper. And so I just started writing. She gave me license, I'm good, I'm right. And then right when I'm about to sign my name and serial number, I paused. And I looked down at this dejected, discouraged woman. I looked down at her snotty-nosed kids, some of them still crying and fighting. She wasn't there, she didn't care. And then I looked at me. And it was the most penetrating gaze I'd ever felt in my life. And I asked myself 3 questions. Mack, is there anything you're doing here that's helping this family? Is there anything you're doing here that's making this town a better place to live? And is there anything you're doing here that's bringing honor and nobility to the badge you wear on your chest? And I was ashamed. And I did not give her that ticket. She couldn't, it was obvious she couldn't have afforded this ticket if it had been $5. And I think back then they were only like 20. This was like 1982. And I just took the ticket and walked back to my patrol car. I didn't say anything to her. I often wonder how long she waited for me to come back, because I never did. I just drove, and the police station was only 3 blocks from where I had stopped her. When I went back to the police station, I tore the ticket up, which we weren't supposed to do. You're supposed to keep track and tell what happened to every ticket. And I just did it. And I said, you know what? I want to find out why we have government. I want to know why we have police. And I want to know why I'm supposed to bring in all these numbers and write all these tickets and make all these arrests. And what's it for? And who's it for? Don't forget that part. Why do we even have government at all? So the next day I came back to briefing a little bit early, and I was walking around the police station, and I was looking for those answers. And kind of I didn't even know what I was looking for. Well, some book was going to hit me, and I was, oh good, yeah, here's the answers. And I kept walking. I was in the briefing room, and then I went in the squad room, and I went in the evidence room. I went up to the detective room, and then I kept walking, and I'm now in the city side. And there's a city clerk's office. And I walked in there, and I just stood there. And the city clerk goes, Officer Mack, can I help you? And as God is my witness, I do not know why I said the next thing I said. I don't know why. Because it was never a topic of conversation for me or any of my officer buddies, me and my wife, whatever, nothing. And I said, when I took this job, did I swear an oath? She goes, yeah, you sure did. You signed it. I said, I signed it? I didn't even remember doing that. And as soon as I said I signed it, she made me a copy and handed it to me. And I kept that for a long time. I had that for about 10 years. I don't know where it went. But I, Richard I. Mack, solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully uphold, defend, protect, and obey the United States Constitution and the Constitution of the state of Utah. That's where I worked at the time. So help me God. And now I'm going to go quit my job. And I'm not kidding. I really like my job. And I tried to get in the FBI. That's when my dad was. He was retired at the time. And that didn't work out. Thank goodness. But I know I was led to be there, and I know I was led to be sheriff. But I don't want to get ahead of the story. And so I am literally taking the badge off my shirt. I'm taking my Sam Brown gun belt off, utility belt off, and I am going into the chief's office, and I am literally walking straight to his office. And now I'm in the lobby between the city side and the police side, and I pause again. I got to stop all those pauses. And I started thinking what would happen when I went home and told my wife I just quit my job. And so in my mind, I have this conversation with her. You know how you ladies intentionally become the subconscious for your husband? I don't know how you do it, but I know you do it. Don't deny it. Okay? And so we had this conversation, and we had this little argument, and of course I'm just totally whatever she says, because I'm the one that just quit my job. And so she's going to be saying stuff like, so we can't get the kids new school clothes, all because you have this little thing about not keeping your oath and you're a liar and a hypocrite. Is that it? Yeah, that's it. I'll get another job, I promise. I'm young, I'm strong, and anyway, so she says, could you do me a favor? Remember, she's not even here. Could you do me a favor? And I said, oh yeah, anything. You're in the driver's seat here. She says, could you consider keeping your job and stop being a liar and a hypocrite? Repentance, of course. Why did I think of that? And you see how you ladies are? You win the argument and you're not even there. You know? So I put my badge back on. I put my Sam Brown back on. Went down to briefing. I was a little late now. And then I went home. As soon as I got in my patrol car, it was only about 1.5 miles away. And I don't know if that was in my area that night or not. I don't really care. But she goes, what are you doing home? And I said, I'm looking for the World Book Encyclopedia that Grandma sold us. And she goes, to start your shift, you're looking for the World Book Encyclopedia. I said, yeah, the one that says U.S. Constitution. How am I going to stop being a liar and a hypocrite? You cannot take an oath to something that you've never read or studied. And that's where we're at in this country. Okay? So how are all these peace officers going to know and understand their job if they don't read the document that they promised in God's name that they were going to uphold and defend? So I got the Constitution, and nobody had given me one of those little pocket constitutions like I just gave all of you. And that's actually from the school where I teach. Our school is very Constitution-based, very founding father, very foundational, very principle-based school. And they actually put that little pocket Constitution out. And I started studying the Constitution, and especially the Bill of Rights. And I determined right then and there, according to the Bill of Rights, almost, well, maybe not, yes, daily. Every day we violate one of the amendments. Anybody guess which one it is? Think. First could be, but let's see, which one do we violate? Freedom of religion? Well, right now we are. On a general thing, back then though, generally speaking, normally we don't violate people's right to keep and bear arms. Yeah, we do that one almost daily, especially in California. But there's 5 in the First Amendment, right? Yeah. So freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of press, right to peaceably assemble and file grievances against government. Okay? Then the Second Amendment. So where police really aren't violating that one every day, they just kind of let some of the laws go. Some of the sheriffs and peace officers in this state have stood against that. And so, there's been some progress on the Second Amendment. A little in California, but across the country, even more so. Second Amendment, so, yeah, okay. Third one, no way. I mean, they're not trying to live in our homes like King George III had the redcoats do. But believe me, they wouldn't mind doing it if they were told. If they were told to, they're going to do it. They're going to do anything they're told, right? And so the Fourth Amendment, we could go with probable cause and warrants and that, but not every day. Anybody there yet? We're not there. We haven't reached it yet. So, Fifth? What part of the Fifth do we violate every day?
The right to privacy.
Ooh, right to privacy, not bad. Every day though? And right to privacy is actually 4.
Due process.
Yeah. Due process is 5. Yeah. And double jeopardy is 5.
Yep.
And, but okay, I'm just going to tell you.
All right.
There it is.
Where?
It's number 8.
Oh,
You guys, read number 8.
number.
It's almost forgotten amendment. No cruel and unusual punishment. No excessive fines or bail. What do you think a ticket is? It's excessive fines and bail. Come on, Sage. Should have known that. All right, good job. I'm glad you're here. Yeah, it's looking good. So it's the 8th Amendment. We violate it every day. We're told, Get out and write those tickets. Oh my goodness. And by all means, have tickets just issued by a camera. And just send it to you in the mail. Where the cop,
I don't pay those.
oh, I don't either. Congratulations.
Yeah,
Don't do it.
I don't.
Okay? Yeah, I've had 7 of them directed to me, but they were actually pictures of my wife. And they said, if it's not you in the picture, if it's not you in the picture, tell us who it is. You want me to turn my wife in? What are you crazy? I know, and you can't testify against her anyway. Well, they just want her to just pay her money, because that's all it's about. It's money generation. And you don't think that some of the fines in California are excessive?
Yes, they are.
Holy moly. The least amount of fine you have here is like $500.
Yep.
And a regular traffic ticket for 15, 20 over, you're talking $700, $800, maybe more. Oh, it's California, yeah. So I'm really starting to love the Constitution. I'm studying it. The Bill of Rights are hitting me. I start reading about the Founding Fathers, and then another miracle happened in my life. If I could handle all these miracles, that lady was a miracle. I keep hoping that I'll say this story about her and she'll come up and give me a hug. I really would love that. I'd really like to see her again. But no, another miracle happened. On the briefing bulletin board in the police station, a notice was given out called Constitutional Studies for Law Enforcement Officers. And it was sponsored by the state of Utah Peace Officer Standards and Training, Utah Post, that oversees all the training for cops. And I said, I'm going to that. So I went and asked permission to go. And my sergeant said, you're probably going to have to ask the chief. So I asked my lieutenant. He said, no, you're probably going to ask the chief. I asked the chief. He said, no, we're not sending anybody. I said, why are we putting a notice about police training and we're not sending anybody? We're the ones that put that notice. Who put the notice? Your secretary. Your secretary put it up. He goes, nah, we're not sending anybody. So I took off 2 days' work and I went to it. It was at the University of Utah in Salt Lake City. During that 16-hour period, we didn't talk about case law, counselor. We didn't talk about case law. We talked about the Constitution. We talked about the oath of office. Talked about the Bill of Rights. Talked about the Founding Fathers. We talked about the intent that the Founding Fathers had when they formed the Constitution, especially the Bill of Rights. Because they formed the Constitution, then 2 years later they did the Bill of Rights. Why'd they wait? What was the problem? And they, back in those days, they called it, it doesn't, and some of the Founding Fathers, you know, those real radical ones like Sam Adams and Patrick Henry, they went to James Madison, they said, we didn't do the Constitution right. Madison was mad. He thought it was beautiful. For a starter, it was. But they said, James, it doesn't have a Declaration of Rights. You know what a Declaration of Rights is? It's what you declare to government that they can never violate. And you list them specifically so they know there's 10 fundamental, well actually there's not just 10, is there? There's 5 in the first one. There's about 27 in the Bill of Rights. Fundamental freedoms and rights that cannot be violated by government. Okay? And that's why in Article 6, the Founding Fathers put in there that all of us in government must swear an oath of allegiance to that document. And what are we committing when we don't keep that oath? Some people say treason. I think it could get to perjury is the easy one. You can't violate an oath without committing the crime of perjury. Yeah.
How do I go against the officer that I know?
Oh, that's the $10,000.
Swears the oath to the Constitution.
And summarily
Nothing
ignores
they
it.
do that they even run on is against it.
Right.
And how do you know?
Yeah.
Congress can expel a member of Congress, but
Right. But they all do it, so it's going to be very difficult for you to get anybody to ever go after a public official for not keeping his oath, because none of them do it. I mean, who are you going to get? The law-breaking chief, the law-breaking FBI? Who's going to investigate that one? You know? And so hopefully we're going to get these sheriffs that are standing up and said, Governor, I will not do that for you. I will not enforce that law.
Hear, hear.
And then they come back and say, but I'll tell you what I will do. I will investigate you, or I will investigate so-and-so here, or the chief here, or the mayor here, city councilman here, who totally violates their oath of office.
Bravo.
And I will investigate them. You don't just say, I'm going to arrest them. You have to have an investigation first. And then you file it. But then who are you going to get to prosecute that? You see, we got a lot going on here. So let me finish this little conversion of mine. So it was a major conversion. And at that 16-hour conference, I was totally converted to the Constitution of the United States. I loved it. I felt it. Somebody was talking about having tears. I had tears in my eyes at that training. 240 big tough cops there. And I don't know what happened to the other 239, but this guy was converted. And I took another oath while I was sitting down there. And I said to myself, I will never be on the wrong side again. And so I kept working in law enforcement, loved it. And I got promoted to other things, so I wasn't on patrol anymore. But I started getting a reputation, oh, that constitutional cop. Oh, you don't want to be that. That constitutional cop? Oh, wow. And so, some of the guys made fun of me, and it was all fine. Okay. Yeah, I said, I just have a funny thing about taking an oath and not keeping it like some of you do. And so then in about 1987, another miracle happened. My wife's mother called. The mother-in-law called, And she's telling me that I need to move home to Arizona and run for sheriff. And I have 11 years on, and 9 years I can retire. So this was easy for me to tell her. Leave me alone, we're not doing that, because my wife was on my side. We're not doing that. So every time her mom does not know how to take no for an answer. I kid you not. I should have brought her here and you to get to know her, She just turned 90 and she's really sprite and really pretty and everything. She's smart too. But she can't take no for an answer. So she just kept calling like it was nothing. Every time she go, oh, Don, it's your mom again. And she leave him alone. We're not moving home, So then one night, I told my wife, I said, look, even your mom can't say no to this. Let's make a list of all the pros and cons why we cannot move home and run for sheriff. And so there's like 23 reasons why it'd be a horrible, horrible idea. And there's only like 2 or 3 that would be positive. Be closer to my parents, be closer to her parents, let the kids, be closer to grandparents. And that was about it. And it was a little bit better pay. So maybe that was with the other one. And that was it. And so we kept that around and we sent it down. We sent a copy down to her parents, and her mom doesn't care about that. She's still calling and whatnot. And then my wife and I looked at that piece of paper and we looked at each other. We paused again. And I said, we're going to move home and run for sheriff, aren't we? And she said, yeah, we are. And I said, and I was in my police uniform when I said that to her. And I said, and I'm never going to wear this uniform again, am I? She goes, no, you're not. And we picked up the kids and moved home, put them in school there. I ran for sheriff. And you guys, this is a very unlikely election. I hadn't even lived there for 12 years. Now, my dad had a good name for being an FBI agent there. And I had some name recognition because I was an all-star athlete there in that community for a long time, in high school and college, community college there. But I hadn't lived there. I'd never worked in law enforcement there, never worked hardly anything except in a grocery store in my community. And I pounded the pavement, and we won the primary, barely, by 111 votes. And then I beat the incumbent quite handily. And my wife would always talk about, why this miracle? Why did we get this? Why were we led here? And we'd talk about that every now and again. And then I was reelected in 1992, and she's still looking at me like, why the miracle? Why was this happen? And then in 1993, my wife and I were both watching TV, and Bill Clinton signed the Brady Bill into law. And we watched it. I didn't give it a second thought. I only thought it was funny because for some reason, Bill Clinton, left-handed, used 13 pens to sign it into law. And I don't know what that meant. Maybe it's Friday the 13th or something. I don't know. Anyway, he used 13 different pens to sign his full name. And then on January 21st, 1994, we had a Sheriff's Association meeting in Phoenix. There's only 15 counties in Arizona. There's only 13 sheriffs at this meeting. There's 3 agents of the BATF. Everybody know who they are? Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms from Washington, D.C. So they oversee, they're the bureaucracy that oversees whether or not you can ever have a gun, basically, or ammunition, or explosives, or okay, alcohol and tobacco too, home brother. So they handed us a 25-page document and said, sheriffs, and they were talking a little bit apologetically, but still they had to do it. They were under orders, and it takes 3 of them to pass out 13 marching order documents. And so we start reading through it, and they mentioned a few things. They said, anyway, you guys have to enforce this. And we're just like, what are you talking about? And so yeah.
Could you say what it is? What is the Brady Bill?
Oh yeah, the Brady Bill was a gun control law that has the name of James Brady. And he was the press secretary shot during the assassination attempt on Ronald Reagan in March of 1981. And so James Brady actually got hurt the worst in that assassination attempt. A cop was shot, a Secret Service agent was shot, President Reagan was shot, but they didn't know it at the time until they're on their way to the hospital. And then James Brady, and he was permanently brain damaged. He got shot in the head. And so the Brady Bill was to increase gun control in America, and the Brady Bill was just the first one. There were 5 Brady Bills scheduled, which were going to completely gut the Second Amendment, get rid of gun shows, increase fees and regulations for FFLs. That's a licensee. That's a gun distributor. And they were just going to do away with it all. And I didn't know that at the time, but this was just the beginning. And there were going to be 5 Brady Bills. So the first one was, let's get all the sheriffs to do what we say and to do the enforcement of this bill. So anyway, I said, I was the youngest sheriff in the state at the time. I'm just going, hey, you know what? I don't think you guys have the authority to do this. Congress, I said, you guys know, Congress can't tell us what to do. You can't hire us or fire us. He goes, oh yeah, they made a law. They passed a law. I said, I don't care if they passed 500 laws. They still can't tell me what to do. I don't work for you guys. What, am I supposed to report to my congressman every Monday morning or something? And he tells me what to do. This is crazy. You can't pass this law. It's null and void on his face. You can't do it. I don't work for you. He says, well, they passed it. And so then they actually included a threat of arrest if we failed to comply. You guys, they're going to arrest sheriffs if you don't do what we say. So we went around the room, and all the sheriffs, they asked, everybody got a chance to say, what do you want to do about the Brady Bill? All of them, all the other 12 sheriffs in the room said, there's nothing we can do about it. And they kept saying this, you can't fight City Hall. And I said, who wants you to believe that? City Hall. Government wants you to believe that. There's nothing you can do about it. Okay, so I said, you guys, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not doing any of this. And they're all looking at me like, yeah, go. You're just a rookie sheriff. You don't know yet. You'll figure it out. So I had a 2.5-hour drive to get back to my home. I pulled up in my driveway, and it hit me. I was brooding all the way home, and it hit me. I'm going to sue my own government. I'm going to sue the Clinton administration. Oh, goody, this is going to be so fun, And so I went into the house. I haven't seen my wife a day and a half because I was in meetings in Phoenix. And she came up to give me a hug and a kiss, and the wife thing. And I was just so preoccupied with this. I just blurted it out. I said, I'm going to sue the federal government. I'm going to stop the Brady Bill. I can't do it. There's no way. And I took another and this is why we're here. And she goes, what are you talking about? And I said, okay. So I took about 2 minutes and tried to explain it to her. And she goes, I still don't know what in the world you're talking about. I don't understand at all. But she goes this. Get this, you you wives especially. But I understand you. And maybe now we know why you were supposed to be sheriff. And then the next day, my mom said the same thing. And I felt it too. I said, yeah, this is got to be it. Because then, 2 days later, the local radio station, Tim Walters, asked me to be on his radio show, and he goes, what do you want to talk about? And I went, the Brady Bill. And I told him I was going to sue the federal government. I didn't even have a lawyer yet. And you know how hard it is to get you guys. You know, you're never available. So anyway, never a lawyer around when you really need one. And so I had no clue what it was. But anyway, I announced it that I was going to sue, and he put it out on the AP wire. In the next week, we took over 300 calls from around the world. But now, ABC, CBS, and all this state, they're coming from all over the place, coming to little Safford, Arizona. And the closest airport was Tucson, but that's not a good airport to really get in and out of. So Phoenix, and they're coming in, and I go, what? And I had to create another phone line to take all the calls so they weren't tying up the business calls, and it was crazy. And I go, what? What is this? I even asked some of them what, and Dallas Morning News sent somebody out from Dallas, and they did a big old story. Los Angeles Times came out, did a big old story, and I'm going, oh my gosh, what did I do? And we're getting calls at home, and it was crazy. And I didn't quite know how to handle it. Okay, so it required us to do background checks on everybody and waiting periods while we're doing the background checks. And then we had to keep track of all of that and keep files on everybody. And so the first one wasn't too awfully serious. But I am totally against any government saying to you or me, the people can't have their Second Amendment rights unless you do a background check on them. Unless you submit and subject yourself to their criminal history check, you can't have a gun at all. You see some gun control in there? Of course. We all must submit. Put your mask back on. You must submit. You must do what you're told. They don't have any authority to do that. Besides that, background checks have proven a waste of time, and they're not effective in keeping them from the gangbangers. And so I'm not going to do any of that. So anyway, I try to get a lawyer, and I'm calling all around. So finally, and I'm not even a member of the NRA. Finally, I called the NRA, and I told them who I was, and they gave me to Richard Gardner, who was a lawyer for them, and I told him who I was, what I wanted to do, and he said, Sheriff, we've already been preparing the paperwork on this case, and we've been praying that you would call. So let's go. So, and then after that, on February 28th, 1994, the very day the Brady Bill took effect, my lawyer, I hired my own lawyer. Also, I didn't want just this to be the NRA case. So I hired a lawyer, the NRA lawyers, and all my lawyers, and they'll like 3 or 4 of them. They filed in federal district court in Tucson, Arizona, Mack v. U.S. And then about 3 or 4 weeks later, Sheriff Prince joined the case, and out of 3,100 sheriffs in America, 7 did this lawsuit. Said, no, we're not doing it. 7. Sounds like how many people are refusing to wear masks around the country. So now I want to get into the case. It was an amazing 2.5 years. Cost me my re-election. I did not win re-election. It was mostly because of this. I became a big fish in a small pond. I didn't intend for that to happen, but it happened. And a lot of people said, no, he just wants to be an activist. He's getting ready to run for Congress or whatever. All I ever wanted was to be sheriff, and I wanted to do my job right. I wanted to keep my word. That's all this was about. At one point, while I was filing lawsuit, the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA came in and wouldn't let us fix a bridge that washed out because of a flood. You get 2 inches of rain in Arizona, you're going to have floods. And a bridge washed. We're just going to put, and it has nothing to do with me. I'm not the bridge fixer. I don't work for maintenance. And they wouldn't let us fix the bridge. Finally, the Board of Supervisors voted unanimously just to fix the bridge. Then the Army Corps of Engineers and EPA came and said, we're going to arrest you. We'll charge you $50,000 a day for every day you're in a violation, and we're going to arrest all the maintenance workers. Now I get involved. They're going to try to arrest people in my county. The board of supervisors who I don't even like, you're going to arrest them in my county? No, you're not. So I called them in. We had this little talk, and I told them how crazy I was. I'm already suing the Clinton administration. Oh, you know, I'm crazy, you know. And I said, you're not arresting anybody in my county. And we're not paying any fines. And we're going to serve the people, and we're going to fix that bridge. Any problems? And so they left town. We fixed the bridge. We didn't pay a dime in fines. Nobody went to jail. And the bad guys left. Okay? And that's what a sheriff's supposed to do. Okay, so try to do my job. So now, about 9 months after I lost my re-election bid, I won the victory of my life. June 27, 1997, the United States Supreme Court, in a 5-4 split decision, ruled that the Brady Bill was indeed unconstitutional. Not the background check. Sorry, we filed on the 10th Amendment, not the 2nd. And it's the most powerful 10th Amendment decision in the history of our country. And I dare you to write that review and tell me I'm wrong. This is the most powerful decision. Want me to tell you one quote that makes it that way? But the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. Wouldn't you love to see a Supreme Court say that? It does. Okay, and I'll even tell you where. I have a headline out of it. It says, states are not puppets, yeah. The Constitution protects us on page 13. Read those 2 little paragraphs when you get a chance, and read the rest of this. It's amazing. He not only says, but the Constitution protects us from our own best intentions. Wow. It divides power among sovereigns and among branches of government, precisely so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. Crisis of the day? Have you ever heard of this crisis of the day thing going around today? Yeah. Does the Constitution protect you from that? Not necessarily, unless you have a few employees of yours that will enforce it. And we really hope that they don't leave you stranded on this. Okay, so now, how's this looking, everybody? Everybody get that? And we're going to see if the sound is working. And we're just going to move right along here. And this, my dear friends, this is all we are after.
The YouTube video going viral, posted on the internet by 2 activists who brought a camera into the Albany International Airport while they passed out flyers. Now, it led to a heated dispute over First Amendment rights. Beth Wertman has our top story. Beth?
Hi, Benita. Well, as you'll see in the video clip, an airport spokesman tries to stop these activists from their mission, but a sheriff's deputy steps in to settle the confrontation and the right to free speech.
So, hey everyone, this is Ashley Jessica. I am here at Albany International Airport.
The young woman is standing outside the security checkpoint at the airport, telling the camera that she's there to hand out flyers to travelers, reminding them of their right to opt out of getting the body scan, which she claims carries health risks.
Okay. On your website.
Hold on.
First of all, turn this off right away.
Airport spokesman Doug Myers tells the crew to stop videotaping and to go downstairs, which they agree to do, and they are confronted again.
Do you have $1 million insurance policy here? You're violating the airport authority guidelines. You haven't paid. That doesn't matter to us at all, okay?
So
you can
the
check
TSA
that out.
doesn't matter?
No, you're in our airport.
But as the tension builds, Sheriff's Deputy Stan Lennox steps in, separating the 2 parties, then lays down the law.
Obviously, this is your constitutional right.
What? Madam Counselor, a deputy sheriff saying what your constitutional right is? What? He's not a lawyer. How can he say that? Because he's doing his job, that's why. This is all we're after at the CSPOA, my dear friends. We're all supposed to be able to say that to people when they're not breaking the law, when they're exercising their constitutional rights. All we want you to know is this is your constitutional right. Wouldn't you love the day when you heard a cop say that? Well, he's from New York. If New York can do it, just about anybody can. I admit that California thinks they're still exempt, even though New York's doing that sort of thing. My dear friends, This is exactly how we should all be doing our job every day.
So someone was going to get thrown off the plane a couple weeks ago when we were flying because he didn't want to wear his mask.
God bless him, but
Yeah.
that's not the government. That's a private business. Different story.
Okay.
You come into my home. We had this talk, didn't we, Michelle? You come into my home, and I said, sorry, you're not wearing your purple socks. Get out. You have to get out. Okay? Doesn't matter. Government cannot violate your rights. Some of your neighbors can. And if they get too far into that, then you call your sheriff and he comes and settles it. Okay? Neighborhood dispute. Okay? Okay? What?
So, with the public health orders, well, I know we're getting on our topic that we've been waiting for. But if you've got more presentation, you can answer this later. But the public health orders, they're compelling small businesses and restaurants to enforce the orders.
Right.
Because they're blackmailing them.
Right.
They'll say they'll
You can't stay in business. Yeah, it's extortion. It's extortion too. You can't stay in business unless you do what we say. So they become agents of the government, and that's already happening quite a bit. But to go all the way to that point is, look, the state has issued some orders. I have chosen to do it. It's going to be a very difficult suit.
Well, now they're doing.
They're
SBA.
choosing to go along, supposedly.
They're loosening SBA law. I mean, the regulations or whatever for SBA loans. Now you know that's most likely so that the owners will be more compelled to.
We'll ruin your life, but we'll give you free loans
Correct. So they're
to kind of
loosening
make it a little bit
rules,
sweeter deal for you.
which I believe
Oh my
makes
gosh.
it so they'll police more for that.
All right, and you're right. I've got a lot more to do. So we'll try to save the questions for the end. But even then, I'm gonna probably ask you to do me a favor. You'll all have my email. You'll all have my phone number. Okay, get them both from Michelle. I'll be happy to Sheriff Mack at Hotmail, or my phone number. Easy, no problem. Look at our website. Call our office, and I'll answer all your questions. And today, I really want you to absorb what I'm putting in front of you. Okay? All right. And I love that you want to ask questions, believe me. But we're not even a fourth of the way through yet.
Obviously, this is your constitutional right, okay? As far as we're concerned, you're not breaking any laws, okay? That's what we want to get across to you guys.
Myers objects, ordering airport employees to allow only ticketed passengers upstairs, accusing the activists of blocking the escalator.
Blocking
Once
the
again,
escalator,
Deputy
right.
Lennox defends their First Amendment right.
Okay, so that
We don't
means
know
we're
who
doing
you
it
are.
for. I told you who I am.
Okay.
I am Jason
No.
Burmis.
Let me see
You can
identification.
clearly- I don't need to show you my identification.
He doesn't have to show you his identification.
Defending the citizen again. Okay? I love it. Deputy Stan Lennox in 2013 was our Deputy Sheriff of the Year at our CSPOA convention. You should have been there. It was wonderful. David A. Clark Jr., Sheriff of Milwaukee, was our Sheriff of the Year that same year. It was amazing, amazing day. Now, this happened in Stockton, California, and this is exactly what we are against.
Now to a News 10 exclusive. A Stockton man wants an apology tonight for a wake-up call he should have never received. It is a story you'll only see on News 10. Lee Painter tells us why police and federal agents knocked down his door.
This is what they did to my door.
At 6 this morning, a SWAT team surprised Kenneth Wright at his front door.
In my underwear. Before I get to the door, I hear him say, hit it. And I get ready to hit the door, and they hit the door. They almost hit me. So I said, hold on. They hit it again. I said, hold on.
But the SWAT team busted in, taking Wright.
They come grab me by my neck and drag me out my house to right there in the grass.
Thrown to the ground and handcuffed, law enforcement then searched his house.
And they put me in the backseat of a police car for over 6 hours. From 6 o'clock to 12:30, they had me handcuffed in the back of a police car with nothing on but my ripped up underwear that they ripped in the yard.
Wright says they also woke his 3 children, holding them for 2 hours. But they failed to find their quarry, Wright's estranged wife.
The warrant for was for his estranged wife, not even
The
him.
city pointed to the U.S. Department of Education.
Did you hear that? Department of Education warrant. Yeah, where does that leave us in being protected in this country? The Department of Education warrant. So we did, we really objected to this, and then they actually did a follow-up story, and they asked Department of Education, are you doing this sort of thing? And the Solicitor General said, oh no, We don't do that. Then we found out they were doing the same thing in Houston at the very same time. Wow. And they had over 1,500 different warrants. And don't you think it'd be pretty easy to collect money from somebody that owes you money if you have a SWAT team doing it for you? They had a SWAT team kick in this guy's door. They had those little battering rams, they bam. Because his wife, and they were separated, owed some money on a student loan. Oh my God. Yeah. And they call me crazy, you know? Yeah. No. Okay, and we're going to keep moving right along here. Okay, now, there are two types of laws, right? Just and unjust. I would be the first to advocating obeying just laws. One has not only a legal, but a moral responsibility to obey just laws. Conversely, one has a moral responsibility to disobey unjust laws. Absolutely. Now, $10,000 question. Who said that? Ah, very good. Because I have. And I even take it a step further. Because I say, no one in government, especially cops, have any obligation to enforce one. How stupid does that sound to you? Yes, I have to enforce unjust laws. Why? Because I have a moral obligation and a legal obligation to enforce all laws, regardless of my opinion about them. Are you totally nuts? We don't enforce unjust laws because the $100 bill is gonna stay in my pocket unless you guess. $200? Okay, I'll keep it. My wife needs to go to Penny's when I get home anyway. There he is. Why did you thought he did and you didn't say? Cost you money, not speaking up. Martin Luther King Jr. Dr. King. Yeah. Sounds like him, doesn't it? And you know, a lot of our enemies, the people who are contrary to the Constitution, that's how you know they're enemies, because they're against the Constitution. They totally love this person that said this leader that said this person that believed in peace, that believed in hate cannot get rid of hate, only love can. And then he said violence multiplies violence. Have you seen any of those two things happening in America? Don't they understand? You're making it worse by burning down our buildings. You can't get rid of injustice by creating more injustice. Oh my goodness. Okay, here's the oath of office. And I already said it to you pretty close, so we're going to keep going. The oath is, I have to uphold and defend the Constitution. It is an oath of allegiance to the Constitution. And 99% of the time, the Constitution is first in every one of those oaths. But remember, the Founding Fathers required this.
You know what you think about when you're lying here? You know you're going to die. And you think, that's all right. You lived a long time. You had a family that loved you. You had a job that you thought made a difference, that you thought was honorable. And then you see this. I'm afraid if I dig any deeper, no one's gonna like what I find. You took an oath. If you recall, when you first came to work for me, and I don't mean to the National Security Advisor of the United States, I mean to his boss, and I don't mean the president. He gave you word to his boss. You gave your word to the people of the United States. Your word is who you are.
It's still the same today. Isn't it amazing we have to learn from some Hollywood movie the importance of the oath of office and who it's to and what it's for? That's a very powerful scene from Clear and Present Danger. Very powerful, but absolutely true. I love it when Hollywood gets it right a couple of times. You know? Even a blind squirrel gets a nut every now and again. You know? Let's keep going. Here's Article 6, and that is where it is required that each of us in government take that oath. The senators and representatives before mentioned, so all of them have to swear this oath, and the members of the several state legislatures, so all the legislators in your state must swear this oath, and all executive. Now, which branch do cops work for? Your sheriff works for the executive branch. We're the executors of the law. We're not judges. We're certainly not legislators. Okay? Do we work for the judicial branch? No, we're executive branch. Do we work for the legislative branch? No, I'm willing to work with them, but I don't work for them. And if the legislature makes a huge mistake, I'm sure the heck not going along with it. I swore an oath to the Constitution, not to some vapid politician who is passing this law because he got a bunch of money from some big corporation. You know? So, the executive, judicial, all of the officers of all three branches must swear of the United States of the several states shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. That's the supreme law of the land, Article 6, U.S. Constitution. And why did they put that in there? Why did the Founding Fathers do that? To perpetuate and protect God-given liberty, your liberty. You don't want to say God-given liberty? Okay, don't. Declaration of Independence covers both sides. The laws of nature or nature's God. Either way you want to look at it, it's fine with me because it's all the same. Okay, state nullification. Now that's a term that you've heard a lot about. Did I make that up? No, but Thomas Jefferson and James Madison talked a lot about it, and they didn't really make it up either, because it's a principle of justice. It's a principle of our government. We're supposed to nullify things or not enforce certain laws when they violate the Constitution. Because why? I took an oath, and we're sworn and bound by that sacred oath. Now, he also argued that the states should refuse to enforce laws that they deem to be unconstitutional. Is the Supreme Court the only one that gets to decide what freedom is? You know who it's up to? Every person who swears that oath. That's who it's up to. And then the states who formed the federal government, we decide. We decided to have a federal government. We can decide when they're out of line. It's a natural order of things. Yeah, the Supreme Court has their job, but do you know the word interpret or interpretation is not anywhere in the Constitution? They're not supposed to interpret the Constitution. What are they supposed to do? Enforce it. All three branches are supposed to enforce it. And then this is a key word. I love this word. There's one word that's in gold, and it's interpose. And start up at the top, read it. That state's legislature is duty bound to interpose its power to prevent the federal government from victimizing its people. Now this is from the Virginia and Kentucky Resolution written by Madison and Jefferson. So we're supposed to interpose. What's interpose mean? Put your body in the way. So it's kind of like, I compare it to playing basketball. So in basketball, when Coach Boniface was teaching us how to play defense, he just said, stay between your man and the basket. Don't ever let him get to the basket. He moves, you move. Did I startle you there? Okay? And it's that simple. Because their goal is to get to the citizen. And you don't let them. And that's interposition. The doctrine of interposition. The shepherd taking care of the lost lamb. And you're not going to let anybody get that lamb. And so that's interposition. That's an amazing doctrine. And that is what your sheriff is responsible to do. Is he the only one? Oh, absolutely not. Does he need your support? Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep rolling here. Now, this is the two sheriffs that ended up filing this case that actually ended up at the Supreme Court. Myself and Sheriff Prince from Ravalli County, Montana. And we have held, however, this is a quote again from the case, but this is from an original case. This is New York versus United States in 1992. And they're quoting a decision that they already made. We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction. Wow. Don't you wish your state legislature knew that? How about then, would your city council be subject to federal direction? No. They're part of the state. Okay? County commissioners? Sheriff? Anybody here? No. If they're saying your state legislature, they're saying your state is not subject to federal direction. That's what it means. Doesn't change anything if you take out legislature. Okay? Again, that's in the Supreme Court decision. Remember that one that I told you is pretty amazing? It is. There's a lot more there. Mack, oh, here we go. Mack is thus forced to choose between keeping his oath or obeying the act, subjecting himself to possible sanctions. That's Judge John Roll in my first hearing. And that's the only time, in the district court is the only time we took the stand. After that, it's just finagling and principle, and they're just exchanging transcripts. Even at the Supreme Court, they mention our names, Sheriff Prince and mine, and then after that, each side gets a half an hour. And I don't mean 30 minutes and 2 seconds. 30 minutes, that's it, you're done. And when I was sitting there, I thought, oh, we've lost. And then the federal government got up, and they're like throwing spears at the attorney for the federal government. And I said, we're going to win this. And sure enough, we did. But this CLEO, see that acronym, CLEO, C-L-E-O, anybody know what that means? The Brady Bill actually called us, the sheriffs who filed this lawsuit, the CLEOs. And that the Brady Bill was actually directed to the CLEOs of every county. Chief Law Enforcement Officer. This is the only place you'll ever see where something documents that the sheriffs are the CLEOs. Don't you love it when the federal government makes a mistake and they're right? Yeah, I know. I know. I love it. And then this is the threat of arrest. This is the threat of arrest. I actually included that in the little booklet that you have in your hand. Okay? Under a separate provision of the Gun Control Act. This is the Gun Control Act of 1968. Any person who knowingly violates the section of the GCA amended by the Brady Bill, which is what we're talking about, shall be fined under this title, and that was $10,000, or a year in jail, or both. So they literally could have come and arrested me. And so I asked my attorney, not the attorneys for the NRA, and I appreciated what they did. The NRA paid almost for all of it, except my own attorney I paid for. And I asked him, and in fact, he came to me and he asked me, he says, do you want to get an order of protection from the federal government being able to arrest you? I said, are you kidding? Could we get that? He goes, sure. And I said, sounds like fun. I could literally get an order of protection from Bill Clinton and the Justice Department from coming after me. So, you know, I was the only, yeah, it was a miracle. We got it. We got it. Judge Roll in my first case was just absolutely on my side for everything. We won every pretrial motion. We won everything else. Judge Roll was so ticked off at the federal government from doing this to us. He was incensed by the threat of arrest for us not going along. Guess what happened to him? When Gabby Giffords was shot in Tucson, Arizona in 2011 in the Safeway parking lot, he was the second person killed. Yeah, and I was actually speaking in Beaumont, California that day. And I brought up that about Judge Roll, and a guy raised his hand and said, do you know he was murdered this morning? That's how I found out. A man who totally changed my life. And the guy totally apologized to me because he saw how I was having a hard time composing myself and getting back to my talk, you know. And in my book, The Magic of Gun Control, I dedicate a chapter to him, and it's really worth it to read it just for that chapter. He is such a great man. So he left way too soon. And this just talks about the petitioners, Sheriff Prince and me, what we were really upset about, okay? This is the federal tax system. There's lots of different things were going on wrong, right? First of all, we got way too many innocent people in prison. First of all, there's far too many laws and rules made for innocent people. You, me, and everybody else doesn't want a mask. And I guarantee you, one of the reasons that you came here was to make sure that nobody sticks a needle in you against your permission. And I'm telling you, that is high on the ladder now. If a couple of years ago, I wouldn't even thought anything about it. But you can actually look at one of my YouTube videos where I'm talking about the swine flu back in 2010, and I said it then. I said, nobody can force you to do that. And it's a great video that sounds like we're talking about things happening today. And so, yeah, we all know that the federal tax system is crazy. Ronald Reagan said it deserves a rebellion. Hey, another one. Just how many different rebellions do we have to have, you know? It's a rebellion. You're going to offend somebody, okay? And go ahead and do it. Okay? And, oh, man. Thomas Paine. These are times that try men's souls. That's Thomas Paine, okay? Britain, with an army to enforce her tyranny. Is that what's going on today? Absolutely. Federal government, with an army of federal agents and others, well, states too, to enforce their tyranny. How many are enforcing Newsom's tyranny? Or how about dictator little Hitler Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan? Well, you know, she just lost a big one. And we're going to get into that in just a minute because I've got a quote from that one. Oh, no, I want to read that whole thing. Britain, with an army to enforce her tyranny, has declared that she has a right not only to tax, but to bind us in all cases whatsoever. That's the British Declaratory Act. And if being bound in that manner is not slavery, then is there not such a thing as slavery upon earth? Really? If they can legislate us in all matters whatsoever, that's not slavery? That's what he just said. Is there anything the state of California thinks that they cannot legislate against you? I think that's pretty obvious. How about the federal government? As long as it's for your own good, they can legislate whatever they want. And isn't it amazing that they come to us and say, we're taking away your economy, we're taking away your businesses, we're destroying everything you've worked for in your family, we're taking away your liberty, we're suspending all of that, and it's all for your own good. Oh my goodness. Well, it's just up to them. It's up to them to say what's an emergency. And there are some state statutes that allow the governor to declare an emergency, aren't there? Do you know what he can't do when he does that? Violate your rights. Change law. He can say he can't set aside law, he can't change law, he can't make law. And so for any of that, for anybody to think, a cop to think, oh yeah, I have to enforce this. It's not even a statute of the state. Okay? And it's totally bogus. Even if California legislature, would they be happy to do it, wouldn't they? Yeah. They could make it a law. How about, should they enforce it then? Edmund Burke said, the enforcement of stupid laws is the essence of tyranny. Wow. Boy, we have a lot of stupid tyranny going on, don't we? My goodness.